All right, we got everything taken care of. And I want to thank Earthworks for coming in. And Ethan is our representative that have come in and he's helped us organize this. We are with a program called, we are, I'll tell you a little bit how I got here. As part of the Ohio River Citizens Alliance, several years ago, like almost 3 years ago, people on the river started looking at the Coast Guard sending down frac waste down our river. And we were very concerned about it. So we got 100,000 signatures, we sent a petition in, and when that petition went in, they listened to us, but also the oil industry kind of tanked a little bit. And when that happened, nobody was paying attention again. So they said, we're not going to rule on this, we're going to stay by those old rules that we have. If anybody knows anything about our valley here, I have a map over here, which is the frac tracker map that I presented at Penn State at the Shell Network group. Whenever I had that prepared, it was a forethought of what had happened the year before I'd attended that Shell Network workshop. And I sit and listen to these industries tell me how they're going to clean that frac water and they're going to give it back to me. And I sit there for 2 days. After 2 days, I said, I need to say something. I need to say that I live in Ohio and all that waste that you're getting is going into the Ohio River and we don't want it. That was what I said. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to tell you what's coming into the river. Bill Hughes, where's he at? Come on. And Bill is with OVEC. He works with our Ohio River Citizens Alliance, and he did a presentation with us at the Shell Network, and he's going to tell you what's going on. So with that, Bill, do your stuff.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who know me, I've done most of my speaking as part of a PowerPoint presentation with many thousands of photographs. Not particularly used to just, freelancing it like this. I did print up for my own use here 4 slides from a presentation I did at the Penn State Shell Network on waste disposal issues. Right here behind us is the Ohio River, 900-mile massive watershed. As we all know, starting at Pittsburgh, going down to Cairo, Illinois, with a lot of tributaries feeding into it. And I live on one of those small streams, maybe 30 miles upstream here and 15 miles away from the river. I wouldn't hesitate to go out there and take a drink of it now and then. It's a little muddy yesterday and the day before. I'm looking for a volunteer. All of you volunteer in different ways. I'm looking for a volunteer to take a drink. All right, no one raise your hands, huh?
He's from Pittsburgh.
Every time my boat's overturned or I've gone down on a water ski or something,
Yeah.
it took a mouthful anyway.
This is the Ohio River. I just stopped up at the boat docks here. And the main concern is what's in it. And we quite frequently do not know. Granted, now there's a fair amount of sediment from all the rains. And this will clarify, leave it sit for a few days, and the sediment will drop out. And for many years, hundreds of years, all the towns and villages and cities have used it as a bit of a 900-mile toilet bowl. We just dump stuff into it, and where's it go? Downstream. And as long as our kids don't live immediately downstream, we try to forget about it. Now, sewage plants and chemical plants and steel mills and all types of industries have had pipes out into the river. The NPDES, which is the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, they get NPDES permits. Even a Walmart will have an NPDES for the runoff from its parking lot. They're not producing or manufacturing anything, but oil, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, antifreeze, all drip off of vehicles and get washed into the parking lot. They're supposed to filter some of that. But in the past few years, as we know, the shale gas industry is starting 2 major streams, the liquid stream that go to injection wells, off brines, produced waters, flow back, and the catch-all phrase is always residual, and no one knows what's in residual, and that's what's on all the trucks. The other waste stream is the drill cuttings that go into the landfill. Now, it's no longer radical to say the Marcellus Shale is radioactive. It's pretty easy to read that from 40 years ago. White papers from geologists from the 80s or so would just say highly radioactive Marcellus Shale. That's how they use their gamma detectors to find this stuff. But then a few years ago, somehow I think the gas industry hired David Copperfield. Now that we brought these shale cuttings up, he waves some type of magic wand and the radioactivity disappeared. Now that's as brain dead as it sounds, that's pretty much what the industry was trying to claim. This stuff has disappeared somehow. Well, in Wetzel County landfill, we have 850,000 tons of it there. And there's 4 landfills, 3 north of here and 1 south of here, whose leachate have been tested. It's always showed high gross alpha, high gross beta, radium-226, radium-228. You can't process this stuff out. There's a very expensive way to bind it up that the landfills are not using. Wetzel County does not send its leachate. Now, leachate is a fancy word for garbage juice. All the liquids that percolate down through and out of any solid waste that goes into a landfill. The leachate then goes to an on-site treatment plant, but you can't filter out the radium and the heavy metals and some of the salts. So it's a bit of a problem. But to this day, we do not test what comes out the pipe that goes right into the river. Now, it's not a direct problem for me because I don't intend to drink a lot of this. But the city of Sistersville still drinks the Ohio River. They don't have any means in their fairly primitive water treatment to filter this stuff out. And the general rule that the states use is dilution being the solution to pollution is good up to a point, and we really don't know where that point is. I just think it's fairly simple mind of the states to just not test. We don't test the drill cuttings on the well pad. We don't test it at the landfills. We test the leachate. The goalpost monitors at the landfill are window dressing. They're made for high radioactive content of medical waste, which has a short shelf life, short half-life. Radium-226 will last for 1,600 years, where some of the medical radioactive isotopes are maybe 45, 60 days, and they're intended to kill cells because they're used in medical treatment for cancer. They'll actually put an irradiated pellet into you, and the point is you're going to die otherwise, so let's see if we can save you and give you some more years. So the goalpost monitors will show those up, but it won't trip for radium-226 because it's not a high gamma emitter. All these things point to unknown problems, and there's the list of unknowns for the most part exceeds the list of knowns. All I need to do is drive up and down the Ohio River here between here and Wheeling, and I saw dozens of them on the way down. Old rusty tanks and an old rusty pump jack. What's in the tanks? Well, we don't know. The tanker trucks are going up and down. What's in the tanker trucks? We really don't know. The market residual, which is pointless. We don't know what residual is. Even marking it brine is a heck of a misnomer because is that pickling salts like next week when you're a little more rain and you can pick more cucumbers and you can make some sweet and sour pickles, or you might make some dills and you're going to get some pickling brine, pickling salts. It's not the same, folks. So we don't know what's in the brine either. It's also not tested well. We don't keep track of how much goes back and forth. And massive quantities of waste go from Pennsylvania into West Virginia, from West Virginia to Ohio, from Ohio into Kentucky, from West Virginia to Kentucky, and some New York into Pennsylvania, some Pennsylvania into New York, because there's no drilling in New York, but there's no regulations against bearing drill cuttings from Pennsylvania. So we shuffle waste around looking for the low-cost person that will make it disappear. We just want it out of our way, out of sight, and hopefully in some other state. At a certain point, all this stuff's gonna come home to roost. We're gonna have to have an acknowledgement because 1,600-year half-life of radium-226, and there's 1 million pounds of it, 1 million tons, up at Watson County landfill, and the other landfills along the river. No one knows what's gonna happen to those, and we're not gonna post a guard at that gate and guarantee, you know, in the landfill liners, even at the outside. I was talking to Steve about material science stuff. Well, Ontario was trying to say, oh, we're hundreds of years. Okay, so take 200-year lifespan of landfill, which is dreaming, and you still have 1,400 years left for the radium. Oh, double liners, well, they're both gonna degrade at the same rate. Anyway, the point is, we're doing stupid over and over again, and we're not asking good questions, or those of us who do ask questions don't get good answers. Now, I'd do better actually with responding to questions, so maybe I should sort of stop there and see if anyone has any questions. And remind me not to drink out of the wrong bottle. But you're right about anyone who's water skied, stuff like that. Yeah, you take a mouthful high. You just don't want to take a necessarily second or third one. Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So, it's my understanding that the fracking injects the brine into the aquifer in order to push the gas back, or not the aquifer, the shale in order to push the gas back out, right? Does that make sense? Did I not phrase that
Well, no,
correctly?
they take
Most of
fresh
if you're
water.
drilling a Marcellus well, you might reuse some of the brine or produced water to fracture the well with, to mix it with your fracturing chemicals, if it hasn't got too briny. But that is more to help open up, high pressure opens up the shale, cracks
Right.
the shale, the sand props it open.
Yeah. And that's what releases the natural gas to put.
The fracturing allows the gas that's embedded within the shale. It's
Right.
a pretty tight formation.
So, that being said, we've got an impervious layer of like limestone or something down there. Then you've got your shale. Then you've got another impervious layer, like another layer of limestone, and then you've got your aquifer on top of that, right? So their arguments are always, oh, it's not bothering the aquifer, blah, 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 because it's in between these two impervious layers. And I'd like to have the answer to that. Like, I'd like to be able to be like, yes, but it still could potentially, you know, I realize that the Ohio River and everything like drains in the same way, but if it's trapped between these impervious layers, then we're only talking about like the actual pipeline channel that's interacting with the aquifer. Is that?
The weak link.
Yeah, correct me, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, the weak link in the whole system is, you're correct, but we need to add some distances in here.
Okay.
The Marcellus around here, for the most part, 7,000 feet down, the Utica might be
Yeah, 7,000 to
14,000,
Yeah.
well, it's one deeper.
Okay,
Impervious is a bit of a relative term.
okay.
It might be more impervious than river gravel, obviously, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any fissures in it. But the weak spot in the whole thing is the pipe
The pipe
itself.
itself, okay.
So you're taking a piece of pipe of questionable quality, you're burying it 7,000 feet down this way, 10 to 14,000 feet laterals,
Yeah,
and you're gonna depend on that to never
right.
rust. And then you're gonna seal the annular space between the well casing and the bored hole with cement.
Yeah.
Now, I was just glancing on, right there, a perfect example. All right. They probably excavated here, they probably dug down, they probably did this in good weather, they had a perfectly open workspace, they probably put in some kind of reinforcing wire, and we got a crack in our cement. Now, you're telling me you're going to pour 1 inch and 3/8 of cement, 7,000 feet down, River. Right here on the surface, we have a crack all the way across this thing. Cement cracks.
Sure.
The earth shifts. So it's sort of really absurd to say pervious lining and
Right.
perfect steel and perfect cementing. Well, casings leak. Now, if they don't leak next week, let's wait 40 years. 40 years in the lifetime of these materials is pretty shallow, and it's within the lifetime of my grandchildren.
Sure.
And my grandchildren live in Wetzel County, and it's a bit of a concern to me, because the long-term clean air and clean water issue is more important to me than some natural gas. Any, yes, sir?
Yeah, A, I'm sorry, I'm A, and B, my dad is getting loyalty, like I'm loyal. It's an event like this, where you guys like kind of against that or what?
Yeah, what was that?
My dad is getting back on loyalty, for royalty money, were you guys against something like that or what? Or something like that? Because I want to kind of see what I'm, protest demonstrating stuff.
Well, a lot of people,
You know what I mean?
people are benefiting, and the problem I have on my table at home, a leasing envelope from Antero. They're beginning to surround my farm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to decide something. It's not like I can ignore the topic. Antero will be drilling around me. If I do not sign some type of lease, they file a petition suit in West Virginia and do it anyway. So the only control I make. All right, so people have been getting spoiled. The problem is making blind decisions or making half-informed decisions. Landmen are notorious for doing one thing. In fact, they're only responsible to do one thing. William J. Hughes. That's all they're responsible. Nothing they've ever said prior to that point matters. Get my signature on that lease. After that, it's all.
April Keating's here, she's from the Mountain Lakes Preservation Group, and she's gonna talk about that Antero landfill site that's coming down the river. And whenever, anything we talk about, if you look at the map over here, it's the Ohio River corridor, and it's coming into our waters. So April's gonna pick up on that, and then we're gonna have Ethan do a couple songs for us, and we got a couple more people gonna say a few things, so we've got about 5 minutes here, and then we have a wonderful walk coming up, so I'm looking forward to it. Great.
So you basically you want.
So glad you guys all came today. So the Antero facility is a frac water treatment facility that is going to take frac water with all of its contents, whatever they are, and separate out the salts, and so they say the radioactivity, although I don't really believe that can be done. And they're going to discharge their water into the water system that is upstream of 4 towns and thousands of people. It's upstream of the water intake for the Hughes River Water Board. And the way it's going to be regulated is the water that comes off of this plant, whether it comes off contaminated or it washes over something and becomes contaminated on the way down, is not going to be regulated as pollutants. So pollutant levels will not be monitored in the runoff. It's just going to be considered stormwater and not toxic water, even though it most likely will be. It's in the zone of peripheral concern. So lately there's been a lot of source water protection committees built up and meetings to form source water protection plans in people's communities. I don't know if any of you guys have joined your source water protection committee in your town, but you might consider doing that. Contact the city or the water department. And you'll learn about zones of critical concern and zones of peripheral concern. So the critical concern is where it would take the water 5 hours to reach the intake. Am I getting that right?
No, that's peripheral.
That's peripheral?
Critical is 30 minutes.
Okay. So if it can reach the water intake in a half an hour, it's critical. But farther out, it's still going to reach, but it's going to take longer. That's peripheral. So this is in the zone of peripheral concern. It's very disturbing, upsetting. It's owned by this giant company, Antero, that has 176,000 acres of lease holdings in West Virginia, a lot of those in Doddridge County.
And of course, as Bill pointed out, one of the most disturbing ingredients in this water is radium-226, which has a half-life of 1,600 years, is water-soluble, and seeks the bone. It's responsible for bone cancer, breast cancer, and other possible cancers. This is not something you want to get in your water. It's not something you can take out of your water by any kind of affordable process. And as we know, we don't have a lot of money in West Virginia, and municipalities aren't going to invest $1 million in something or $10 million in something to do this. There's no public legal notice required. No, let me back up. The public legal notice goes into the newspaper as a little legal notice. It's in fine print, and it's in the local paper. There's no mention of pollutants or pollution or threat to the watershed at all. It's just, we seek a permit to do this in your county. And so that's part of the problem, is the lack of public information. Of course, the companies aren't going to disclose these things willingly. The corruption in West Virginia is intense. Antero executives donated to Governor Tomlin's campaign so that he would give his good opinion of Antero, and they could put that in their PR brochures, and that's the kind of connections that we are fighting, the kind of corrupt structure that supports this kind of development. We know fossil fuel development leans heavily on poor communities and communities of color. There is a huge social justice aspect that can't be ignored. Doddridge County has recently been completely torn up by construction on the Rover pipeline, which is one of the things that we're out here today to talk about. And it was so bad that our West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, some people say DEP stands for Department of Everything Permitted, but anyway, actually issued a cease and desist order for this company on this pipeline, but only in Doddridge, so they're still operating in Tyler and the other counties. And there are 60-some photographs. A lot of those photographs were taken by citizen monitors, so citizen monitoring is hugely important. Get out, take pictures, send them to your Department of Environmental Protection or Environmental Quality. And these pictures show what the infractions are. So I'd like to underscore what you were saying about the lack of inspection, the lack of oversight. That is a true fact. In West Virginia, we have 20 inspectors for oil and gas operations in 55 counties, and there are 136,000 gas wells in the state. So, you know, the Rover, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, the Mountain Valley Pipeline, these are 42-inch pipelines. Should have brought our hula hoop out here. We've got a 42-inch hula hoop. That size and pressure is going to produce a hazard in a county. It's going to be flammable material. And the waste stream that Bill was talking about and Elaine was talking about is the thing that people don't pay attention to is the waste that comes back out of the ground. Where is that going to go? If it goes underground, it's probably going to cause some earthquakes. It could be responsible for some water contamination. The UN says that by 2030 there's going to be a worldwide water shortage. We don't want to be on the ass end of that. We've got to conserve our water, and that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Well, the good thing that's happening is Rover, we have, you know, Energy Transfer Partners. We have a new coalition formed. It's a national campaign that we're working with. And part of the reason we're here is because Earthworks is one of those founding members of that campaign. We are taking Energy Transfer Partners on. And whatever we have to do, divestment, as some of our OVAC friends are involved with, the exposure as to the eminent domain, the things that are going on. They took a historical building down that they were told not to. They got fined $2 million that they didn't pay, so Ohio's Attorney General went after them. So that was taken care of. The 5 million gallon slurry spill that happened in Tuscarawas County, they're still putting $2 million out. We're still putting 2 million gallons out. That put 2 feet of slurry mud contaminated with diesel fuel in a 6.5 acre wetland, one of our pristine wetlands in Ohio. So, you know, they're doing it themselves.
National attention, and that's the good thing.
And then they're gonna get more attention. I mean, we're making sure of that. So, Ethan's got something for us, so we're gonna have a little bit of fun, and I think I've got a couple more people I wanna say a few things from their groups, and then we're good. We'll take
Sure.
a march.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. My name is Ethan Buckner. I'm a campaigner with Earthworks. I'm visiting. I live in Oakland, California. I grew up in the Midwest, Minnesota. I'm glad to be here. So yeah, as Elaine was mentioning, there's this new kind of campaign, Stop ETP campaign that's been referring to Energy Transfer Partners, this developer of the Rover pipeline. That's been growing in different parts of the country, building off of the resistance to the Dakota Access Pipeline out of Standing Rock. Communities including folks up in North Dakota, as well as folks dealing with the Mariner East Pipeline in Pennsylvania, folks dealing with the Bayou Bridge Pipeline down in Louisiana, with multiple natural gas pipelines in Texas, in Michigan, also dealing with Rover, that are all we're all starting to work together. And really drawing attention to the ways in which Energy Transfer Partners has become one of the worst actors in the industry and most aggressive actors in the industry, in violating landowners' rights and violating indigenous sovereignty, and polluting air and water and the climate, and having a total disregard for public process. For going after and hiring paramilitary security firms to go after anyone who opposes them, and so we're working to continue to build a campaign that can help amplify and coordinate all the work that's happening, including the great work happening here in Ohio, West Virginia, on the Rover line. So very glad to be here, and one of the big things that's coming up on September 9th will be kind of the first big national day of action against the Energy Transfer Partners. So
Where is that?
September 9th, it's a Saturday.
Where?
Where? Everywhere.
We will be organizing here on the river something that we can gather to bring attention to what's going on. Also on August the 6th, it's a Sunday in Sardis, I will be doing a presentation on Rover Pipeline, which is part of our local Wayne group to save the forest. And we have lateral lines coming in from the forest, and you can see on that map where these lines are, so we can identify that. And I'll be reviewing that map and some additional information on it. So.
I'll be in Nebraska fighting Keystone.
Oh,
Wow,
awesome.
we need that
Thank
too.
you.
So thank you. Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so that's all coming up, and in the meantime, we're gonna march here in a minute. We're gonna teach you all a song, sing, and start to get our spirit rising, like the Ohio River rising.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is Earth Justice the one that's kind of organizing all the different pipeline groups? Or is
No,
that
Earth
some
Justice
other?
is a different organization
Okay.
that does legal. Earthworks is a group that I work for.
I'm sorry, that's.
And we're part of a coalition. There are over 40 different groups that have signed on and
Okay.
are putting work into it. So we're by no means like the leaders of the
So
coalition, but we're
how do we
helping the
link in with this coalition? Do we have, like, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, if there's 40 different groups, then there needs to be a head.
Okay, we are
So
the
there is. So we
alliance
have.
here.
If you are,
Okay.
if you have a group and want to be involved in the coalition, you can talk to me after. We start walking, and I can get you
Okay.
linked on. There's a listserv. We have
Okay.
bi-weekly calls.
Great, yeah.
It's pretty organized at this point, and in the meantime, if you want to just find out more information about upcoming, the day of action coming up, stopetp.org is the website, and that's where you'll be able to find local events, sign up to host an event. That is still getting together, but the website is up. As of right now, you can kind of put your email in for more info. But yeah, feel free. I'm happy to be in touch with anyone who wants more information about that campaign.
And we'll have contact information through the alliance too, so, reach out.
Send me a
rich coal executives.
It is awesome.
And that was what the,
I love it.
that is what the paper used for their photos.
I would do it at night
Let's take a picture of this folks down by the river.
Yeah, we should
Maybe
line
get
up on that
everybody-
sidewalk, I'd say.
Yeah.
Water, there you go.
I'm from Keep Wayne Wild. I'm just glad to be here making the connection. We're trying to keep fracking out of the Wayne mostly, and that's a pretty heavy lift. So, yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
We're here as part of Keep the Wayne Wild. Our alliance is a part of Keep the Wayne Wild on the leadership committee. We have a lot of things going on in the forest. It's not always at Lamping. Lamping camp kind of started and we couldn't get enough people there to keep it. You could be there 2 weeks. So we struggle, and not every situation can handle a camp. So we had a camp this weekend. Very few people showed up. It rained for 2 days. So, you know, so that, but everybody that's here, you're the choir. And now you're going to go home and sing about this river. I have a couple things to say. The first one is something that my great-grandmother, or my grandmother, not great-grandmother, said to me. And if you cut the tail off of a snake, he's going to wiggle and go away. If you cut his head off, he's going to die at sunset. So we got one big snake whose head we got an opportunity to cut off right here on this spot on this river.